right, welcome to episode 23 of the Zone's All Access, hosted by the Sports Center. Mason Goad is back with us for a review of his highly successful Claiborne County Elite Fitness Day. Before we begin, I must thank our team of marketing partners, including our premier partners, Whitaker Insurance, Walker to Walker Construction, Stay and Play Doggy Daycare, J&S Concrete Pumping, Hearthside Bank, and Value RX Pharmacy, Tazewell, Tennessee, plus First Century Bank for providing our communications. All right, it's good to see you again, Mason.
Yes, good to be back.
When you imagined this, did you think it would be so successful?
I had hoped, I think with anything that you kind of foster and create, you hope that it's going to be successful. I think for a first year, I feel, when I go back and look at, all the check boxes, I feel like it was highly successful from just a logistical standpoint on my end. I've been working on this since, I guess I met with Coach Klein last spring, and I've been kind of actively working on this since last June in coordination with some other coordinators from across the state, just seeing how different things operate. So from a logistical standpoint, we were able to stay on time. There were no kids that I know of that were injured, and, kids left away smiling and had a great time where it appeared to be. And I've heard a lot of good things from teachers and kids alike, and, kids that were in sixth grade that are wanting to bump it next year. So I think for a first year, I would consider it a success.
Yeah, I've in my comments on the post I did, I had people from Union County talking about cool. That school system should do it too. So maybe you started something good.
Well, and it's always one of those things too where, when you create something, my wife would probably poke fun at me because I was, whether I showed it or not, I was stressed all day because everything that I every little thing that I saw, I felt as if, was catastrophic and going wrong. She's like, it's okay. It's going well.
She was right. It was good. So exactly how many schools participated this year?
So we had 8 schools, I believe, that participated this year. We were missing one that had something previously planned, but hopefully to, get them included next year. The only schools I think that did not participate would be the high schools. Mm-hmm. So we had 8 schools this year.
Good deal. Do you, right off the top of your head, do you know how many athletes were there?
Roughly, I want to say my T-shirt order was roughly 250 for the athlete shirts. Now, a couple of those would have been teacher shirts, but I would say in the 240 range. And then I had about, I think, 42 of my high school volunteers that helped me, make the day possible. So
we'll talk about them later.
Yeah.
Explain to people that wasn't there, what all events did you have for the kids?
So basically what this is structured around, in physical education, we have our standards and our movement standards and things that we're supposed to be teaching. For people that don't know, I taught K through 8 for numerous years, probably, I guess 6-7 years, did that, coach basketball before I moved into this strength and conditioning and, athletic director role at Claiborne. But we have these standards, and a lot of them are encompassed around, fitness and those components of fitness, which are things like muscular endurance, muscular power, flexibility. There's all these different components. So what I wanted to do was take some of those components of fitness and see how that we could test those, stuff that we're already doing within our classrooms, but, pull that out. So we did, we had our pacer test, which is an aerobic capacity run, where they just go with the beats.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see kids really push because some of them, they were going all out. So that was our first event. Then we had our sit-up event, which was as many sit-ups in 1 minute. We had push-ups, which they had a 2-minute timer, and we went on a cadence, up, down. The only way reps counted were if they were on cadence. Mm-hmm. Then we also had our softball throw, which was a upper body power expression. And then we had our 50-yard dash, which would be just a basic speed expression. And then after lunch, we got to the fun stuff, the tug of war, school versus school, which I think the kids really, really enjoyed. They seem to anyway.
Was there any event you wanted to do but weren't able to do this year logistically that you might add next time?
Yeah, so I've looked at a couple of things. Originally this year, I had an additional team event, but the main 5 that I had to get done, and I had to complete those just because of podium and placing and getting medals. The afternoon was more fun, competition-driven, school versus school. So I had an additional team game placed in that afternoon setting. However, and I kind of planned for that ahead, so we made a little adjustment. But we had a few tiebreakers that we had to take care of once the kids got finished with lunch. That kind of ate into a little bit. And then I had to have enough time to get through all of our awards, to get the kids back on the bus, to get back to all their schools so that the buses, could run for the afternoon. So there was one team event that I didn't get to. But as far as next year, I'm reaching out to some of my connections in the strength and conditioning world to try to see if they can maybe help me out. For example, at Claiborne, I'm fortunate enough, it's called a plyo mat, and it's just this big rectangular mat that the kids can step on. I use it for my KPIs, my key performance indicators, so they can step on it, and it's connected to a module which connects to my phone, and all they do is jump, land, and it calculates their vertical. So I can do an entire team within a couple of minutes. So
that's cool.
I would love to be able to see something cool like that, have them maybe come down and bring some of their units and be able to test verticals for a lower body power expression. So there's been some different events that I'm
now there's all kinds of things you could do on the other end of the football
exactly.
field.
And especially if we broaden it, I thought about that. If we expand it, we can run multiple events at the same time on each side of the field. So I left, as exhausted as I was making notes throughout the day, and I probably had, a page and a half of notes. And then I sent out a Google document to all of our PE teachers, kind of getting feedback from them on what they thought and, things that we could do to improve and all that type of stuff.
Right. We talked about it a little bit, but have you thought much about making the competition also about this school versus the other schools and crown a champion?
Yes. So I have actually, and they don't know who, so I'm not going to spill the beans. I will send you pictures on Friday morning, though. But something that I had I've got a group of people that they're my good friends and my devil's advocate that I bounce ideas off of, and they kind of give me the ins and outs. And we'd been talking about this, and I wanted something to kind of stir along that just competitive nature and in jest and having a little fun between the schools. So came up with the idea of having a trophy, almost like we do with the Battle of the River between Terminal Gap and Claiborne. So I have, thanks to the sports center here, we've got 2 trophies, one for elementary division and one for the middle school division. So what I have went through, I calculated every podium placing for each school. And then if there was a tiebreaker, I ranked them by points. So if they had a first place finish, they got 3 points. Second got 2, third place got 1. So there will be 2 schools on Friday morning. I will be dropping by and delivering a trophy with their name on it, and they will get to hold that trophy until next year's Elite Fitness Day. So they will have a year's worth of bragging rights.
That's
so
good.
A little incentive for our teachers to keep our kids moving and getting ready for next year.
What all surprised you, seeing the athletes on the field and seeing their efforts? What all surprised you? Because when I was out there, I saw this one little girl, and she was a sit-up master. I mean, I was looking at her in awe. What kind of surprised you?
I think for me, it's just I think sometimes as adults, and I've probably done it as well, but I think sometimes we shortchange our youth today, especially in the area of, being resilient. And what I saw all day was just the resilience of our youth. I mean, like you said, I saw one kid, it was my good friend Jimmy, his son, Trey Corum, and he was down to the last 2, and him and it might have been the Goins young man from Cage Goins from Powell Valley, but they were battling like in the pacer test. And I know most people probably haven't, but I've had the unfortunate pleasure of doing the pacer test. It is tough. And so to watch those 2 continue, lap after they're watching each other, and they're breathing, they're slow blinking, and then but you see that at every event, the sit-ups, like you said, people pushing. I would say for a lot of those kids past what they even thought that they could do, because they were in that arena.
A lot of that happened.
And so I think the resiliency of our youth, that was refreshing to see.
Let's talk about your student volunteers and the other volunteers.
Yes. I'll be honest with you. And I told them this after the fact. There is absolutely, and I mean this with every fiber of my being, there's no way that I could have pulled that off without them. No. I'm extremely thankful. Those kids, some of them were my youth health council. I have a little council at school there. Some of us were our G-Force and our A-team. It was such a good group of kids. I had some that were working the athlete area, making sure the kids stayed safe on the bounce houses and things. I had some working the gate. I had some working concessions. I had, of course, my field judges. Again, I couldn't do anything without them. So for them, I mean, to be high school kids, that was it for me. It was absolutely huge, and I know, and I've already spoke with some of the teachers. That we had a couple clerical errors, which we're humans, and they're high school kids and they're volunteers.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the fact that they were able to get out there on the field and hold that level of professionalism to because that was one thing I preached in our kind of our briefing beforehand when we were going over with my field judges is that I want you, number one, to encourage those kids, but we have to also have some integrity towards the test. So we want to encourage, but we can't let little Billy get an extra lap because he,
the ones I saw were
Yes.
stressing the
yes,
right things, and plus what you said,
Yep.
giving a little advice and
that's all you can ask
pushing
for.
them.
And then, like I said, I've got a full team. Shelly Short, our bookkeeper at the high school, she and my wife, they helped at the head judges table getting scores because my wife actually helped me big time formulate a Google form, which, like I said, we had one hiccup, but other than that, it was amazing. So we had a Google form, so all of my judges had a QR code, and so they scanned the QR code, and all of those, all that information, they put in the first, last name, the event, the score, and that was automatically put into a Google spreadsheet. So then at the end, it calculated first, second, and third. Coach Lee was a big help coming out early in the morning. Obviously, the support of Mr. McGinnis and Mr. Ivy. That I would be amiss to try to name everybody because there were just so many people, that helped. I mean, I had teachers at the high school that helped step up and said, "Hey, I'll go pick up kids so you don't have to pay for another bus driver." Like that, there are so many people. Again, I know people were throwing my name around, but it's not me. It's everybody collectively that made me look as good as I did because I don't look that good on my own. So
you did great. What about your sponsors? What would you want to say to them?
Huge thank you. Number one, I would have to say, the Claiborne Health Council. They were my first people to get on board this year, and they came through big time for me. That kind of started the process, and then I was able to get in front of the board. They were able to come in and pitch in. You came in and helped. Like there were those three were huge in allowing me, because without them, our kids don't get cool shirts, our kids don't get medals. So they were the driving force behind what happened.
Is it planned to include the 7th and 8th graders next year?
That is my current goal.
Still up and
yeah. So a lot of it, as with anything in the world, comes down to funding. Because even with the help of Rex here and the Sports Center, I think, and I'll just be transparent, I think I spent $1,500 just in T-shirts. But again, it's something I'm not complaining. It's something I wanted to do. I wanted our kids to have something memorable and special. So if I can get the funding and the approval to do so, I would love to have like an elementary day and then a full blown 5 through 8 middle day. To me, I think that would be super cool. Because then you can expand. You can do different things with the older kids that you may not do with the younger kids. So I'm hoping to. I spoke with Mr. Hamilton. I'm hoping to get in front of the board, I think in June, to kind of, number one, to say thank you for them, really getting behind this, but to pitch and see what we can do moving forward to get ready for next year, because I think it's something that we could really do a good job with.
You spoke earlier about maybe switching to high schools.
Yeah.
Are you going to do that for next year?
That I don't know. That'll be, obviously up for discussion.
Approach the board. And
it really will be after the first year of doing this. And if we can make it work, we can make it work. But logistically, where I'm there, I get it. I've got 40. I had 42 kids there that were helping, so it'd either be bust them over or I'll have to go over there and train. So logistically, I'm not sure how to make that work just yet. But I'm definitely, it's not out of the realm of discussion for sure.
Are you looking at adding some more events, or possibly going with 2 days even?
So, like I said, if that will be, there's so many factors that go into that, because if we can do 2 separate days, elementary and a true middle day, that can change a lot. Because again, like I said, there are things that we can expect physiologically out of our you know, 13-year-olds as eighth graders that, you know, are 9-year-olds and 8-year-olds you're not going to be able to necessarily, you know, compete with. So if we're able to divide that and split that up, we can really adjust and add and take. We can do a lot of different things if we're able to get that.
Well, if you take the 7th and 8th graders, next thing's going to be said, well, I wish we'd do high school.
Hey, listen, this stuff right here is my passion. So if they want to fund it, I will.
Can you imagine that?
Oh gosh, that would. Well, see, and that was like we had spoke about before. That was because a question I had received a few times was, you know, why 3rd through 6th? That's like kind of an odd.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, and I think it has happened. You know, I felt like that age group was the perfect age group to create a buzz that would carry momentum forward because, you know, like I said, I taught K-8 for
they'll
many
be
years.
eager to do it next year.
Yeah. So, you know, like, you know, I had a teacher, he texted me on the way home and said, he's like, man, I hope we can do 7th and 8th grade next year. My 6th graders are already like, you know, talking about it. And I said, that's awesome. So like I said, if we can get funding, I would absolutely love to head that up and see that come to fruition.
Excuse me. Looking back, what was the most successful part of it?
For me, when it was open, no. For me, I would say just to see our kids, you know, smiling. I mean, having fun, expressing their God-given abilities and their ability to move, and honestly, even I was super impressed with the sportsmanship of our kids.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even the ones that didn't place, yeah, they were upset, but man, they did it with grace. They were very respectful. Every school was. All of our kids were. So, I mean, to see those kids having a good time, and I didn't get to see it much, but, you know, the athlete area, you know, I've seen kids over there on the bounce house having a great time and swinging by and getting ice cream. So, to me, the atmosphere that we were able to create that day with, you know, the music going and kids competing and pushing each other. You probably saw the schools rallying around some
That's
of their
what I was going
kids
to bring up.
and cheering. And so, to me, like that was, for me, that's a huge
It
success.
seemed like we got 2 or 3 down there. Yeah, the final 2 or 3.
Yeah.
The other kids would just come and just encourage them and cheer.
And like, again, I think
that was awesome.
When you get to the core of it, I mean, you know, I've coached many years in this county, but I love winning just as much as the next person. I hate losing. I still to this day, I don't care if it's checkers. I hate losing. But when it comes down to the bare knuckles of sports and what we learn as young men and women as we take on into adulthood, to see that, for me, that's a huge win. To see those kids rally together like that.
Let's flip that question over. What was the least successful you thought of the day? What needs work?
For me, I do not know why, for whatever reason, but our sound system, it was not cutting out. And unfortunately, that first test, we have to have the sound system. And I was telling people
during football season happened too.
Yeah, well, and what was so ironic about it is the day before we had got it set up, I had a sound guy up there. I walked all the way across to the other side of the track. It was flawless. That morning, I was at the school at 5 after 6 that morning setting up. I checked it then. It was great. I'm like, all right, we're ready to have a great day. And we made it through like the first heat. And I found myself, you know, listening and screaming at the kids when to go. But, you know, all in all, it wound up working out. So,
what's your thoughts on maybe allowing the parents to come in and fans to come in and fill the stands to watch their athletes?
Listen, I encourage it. Would love to see that. I think we had one kind of change that I had discussed a little bit with some people is potentially moving all of our events more center of the football field
and
to allow parents to be able to see, because we did have it on that one end. So I think to encourage parents to be able to see from the stands and get a good, you know, bird's eye view, we may try to transition that to the middle of the field, depending upon numbers. Now, if we have to operate out of both sides, you know, we'll see. But that's one thing I'd like to do. But I would love, you know, this year we did a $1 donation for an entry fee. It wasn't really an entry fee; it was just a donation, because everything from concessions to gate to the extra T-shirts that were sold, every bit of that money has went back to our kids. So every bit of that money has been rolled back into the account and ready to get started into next year.
Your thoughts overall on the first one?
Overall, like I said earlier, I think from a logistics standpoint, I was happy. We stayed on time, even though we had to make a few adjustments. Again, I felt like the environment was great. The kids seemed to be having fun for the most part. Everybody was safe, and everybody competed, and that was some of my biggest goals. And like I said, I got to check those boxes off and create, just like I pitched to the board. I want to see kids, number one, express their fitness, but I want to see kids do that and be competitive and still have a good time. And I felt
Right.
like those things were accomplished. So for me, with those boxes being checked, it was a success.
Anything else you want to say?
I just say thank you to our community, to the parents that came out and supported their young athletes. Thank you to the health council and the board, and to my friend here for the support, because without it, we couldn't have put on the event. To all of my volunteers, again, I didn't want to name names per se, because I can't do it justice, because there were so many people, even from the smallest details, that played such a huge role, that really, again, they made, even though I was the face of the organization, or the face of the event, it doesn't happen without the people behind the scenes that don't get any credit. So I've got to give credit where credit's due. So,
Right, Mason, thanks.
thank you. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Need to thank Rex up here at the Sports Center. I need to thank my marketing partners, First Century Bank, and thanks everyone who watches. Please follow the Facebook page and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And thanks everyone. We will see you next time, and may God bless. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm excited to go